All right, here we are. Have another Sewing Boss interview. And I have Jennifer Serr of the Sewing Room Alameda here with me. And she's going to talk a little bit about her sewing business in California, right?
That's right, in Alameda, California.
All right, awesome. So tell us a little bit about how your business works. Do you have a studio? Are you teaching classes mobily, both? Tell us a little bit about it.
So I've done both, but right now I have one studio. It's the Sewing Room Alameda, and it's a little 500 square foot space that's sort of off our main street here in town. And we teach classes 5 days a week: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so it's an actual like storefront, or you're in a building?
It's an actual storefront with a big window so you can see in. We're only open during class times and by appointment.
Yeah.
So we are a storefront, but you have to come when we're open. Which, yeah. So it's not super regular hours. It's just whenever we have class.
You have people that like go by, and they're only coming home from work or like certain hours, and they're like, gosh, you're never open. I don't know. I had a storefront and I was happy to get away from it because people were just like, oh, well, you're never open when I walk by. And I'm like, I feel like I'm always there, but you just be walking by when I'm not open or whatever it is. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So we don't get a ton of foot traffic, so it's sort of fine the way it is. And I'm there enough that people see me around. And they're happy when I am open, but we have a little sign on the door that tells them to visit us online.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And then do you sell other things in the store or just sort of class related things?
We actually sell class related things, fabric patterns. I have my own pattern company. Mm-hmm. So I sell my patterns. I also sell Tilly and the Buttons patterns, and a few others. I have So Demented and Alice Frost Design. So we have some stuffy patterns, and then we have clothing. So I'm all about clothing, but a lot of the kids aren't necessarily about clothing. So yes, and then we also sell sewing machines. So we have baby lock sewing machines in the studio. We have 2 different models, and we sell both of those models basically through another sewing store, because to be a sewing machine dealer, it's a huge investment.
Right. So you've worked out a deal with a sewing store. That's
really
smart. And you sort of split the profit or whatever the deal is, but then you don't have to have all the models, just the ones that you teach on. Super smart.
Yeah, so it's actually pretty easy to strike a deal with a dealership, because when they purchase more machines, they get better deals on them. So, and if like Baby Lock doesn't mind if they do that, so they get a little cut of what I take, and I maybe charge a little bit more than what other people do, but the student is in my class learning on that machine. So I don't sell a ton of machines, but I sell enough so that makes it worth it.
Okay. Yeah. That was always what I've sort of wondered. It's like, how do you price it so that it's even just worth it? Because it's like, if you're splitting that profit with somebody else, it's like, but at the same time, it's a nice benefit for you to sell to your students. It just sort of makes it easier for them, right?
Oh, it totally makes it easier. And when you're working with kids and parents who have really busy schedules, anything you can do to make it easier on the parents really is a win-win for everybody.
Totally. Okay, cool. So you are a Baby Lock person. All right, that's good.
Yeah, I haven't always been a Baby Lock person. Originally, I was a Bernina person, because that's what I grew up with. My stepmom had Berninas, and then after my Bernina died, I got a Pfaff.
Okay.
And but I couldn't afford to get Pfaffs for the whole shop. And at the time when I was starting out, they sold, and I think they still have them, these little Hello Kitty Janome machines, the green ones, and I bought one just because it was cute, and it turned out to be a really great machine for the kids. So we had those for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And then I bought a few used baby locks and fell in love. Just love them. They were super durable. That's the thing about my classes, is they have to be durable because of the kid. The kids just destroy. They just kind of destroy everything. But yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
All right. How long have you been in business with your sewing studio and teaching classes, that part of your business?
Okay, that part of my business, I started in 2008.
Okay, so it's been a while.
It's been a while, yeah. So almost 10 years.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned that you have your own sewing patterns. So you're teaching your classes from the sewing patterns that you create?
Sometimes. So my whole philosophy is the kids get to choose what they work on, and then we make it happen. We help them, we facilitate that whole process. So my pattern started out because I had this little side business making these tote bags and pillows that I made from recycled fabrics, and I had a pattern laying around, and someone finished their project and they wanted to make something else. So I had this pattern, and then suddenly everybody was using that pattern and there was no seam allowance on it anymore. And so I just started making, I hand traced a few patterns and sold them to the kids. And then I thought, go figure. And then it just evolved from that. So during summer camp, they have to choose from what we sell in the store. Okay. And during the school year, I'm a little bit more lenient about how they, because they have more time to focus on different projects, and they can, we have fewer students in the class, so we can spend more time with them reading instructions.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you that. How big are your classes? Because to be able to do that, that's a lot of work for the teacher.
It's a lot of work for the teacher. So during summer camp, I have up to 8 kids. And then I like to have, when I have 8 kids, I usually have 2 helpers. Mm-hmm. And they may be teenage helpers who've been students of mine before, or they may be, I work with another instructor. I call her my assistant, but she's just more of a co-instructor, and she teaches her own classes as well. She might come in and assist me, or vice versa. Usually it's her assisting me, because I'm willing to stay longer and mop the floors and stuff. But yeah, so that's how it works. And then during the school year, I have classes after school every day except Thursday, and those are 2-hour-long classes. I usually have 4 to 5 students in each of those, and I can handle 4 to 5. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then
sorry, you were gonna say.
I was gonna say, and if we have more people who really want to sign up, then I find someone who can help. Yeah.
And then you kind of have like a whole range of ages, or you are sticking to a certain age group?
We start at age 8, but I make exceptions if the student is really showing aptitude at a younger age. Like we have one student who started when she was 5 with her older sister, and they came together, just the 2 of them, with Maria, my other instructor. And then as they've been sewing with us now for 2 years, and actually she's now 7. She's like as good or better than some of my 8 and 9-year-olds. So, or even some of the 15-year-olds. So I kind of go from age 8 to 100. That's my, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because you can kind of tell when a kid is ready, especially like a younger sibling, because they're just, I'll have younger siblings that are kind of hanging out in the hall, and maybe they're too young to join the class, but then they're figuring out every excuse to like run in and sort of see what's going on, and like they're so interested, and it's like you can't do anything but go, all right, you can join the class too.
Yeah.
Why would you not?
Yeah.
They're so into it. So yeah, glad to hear that you do that too. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you have a co-instructor. Is it just the 2 of you doing all the classes?
It's just the 2 of us. During the summer, I have teenage helpers as well. And they're mostly students that have been through my whole program before. So after they get to high school, they're usually ready to stop taking classes, even though they could probably still use a few more classes. But they want to work. and they like working with the kids. Yeah, I know.
So the way, because it's like I love teaching the older kids, but I don't know if it's just because there's there's more homework. They're concentrating on getting into different high schools and they've got other things on their plate. But yeah, they're always coming back. They're like, when can I intern? When can I work at summer camp?
Yeah. Yeah. How long have you been doing this?
I started teaching like in 2004, I think. So I've been doing for a long time as well. And it's, it's so crazy to just see. I actually hired an instructor for summer camp who took my summer camp the first time I had it as an 8-year-old. And
oh, wow.
20. Yeah. So it's funny to just see them growing up and really heartwarming to see that they still want to do it, and even though they're not like maybe sewing at home as teenagers or going into college, they remember how to do it and they remember it fondly, I think. So I love that.
Yeah, I think they get an understanding too of how clothing is made and more of an appreciation for what goes into, the clothing that they wear.
Yes,
yeah,
accessories and even home stuff. Yeah, it's such an important thing to know. Yeah, that $9 shirt at Forever 21, like how is that even possible? Because what just went into making that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, they kind of get that education as well. All right. Okay, let's talk a little bit about your marketing and how you go about getting new students. What would you say is the biggest marketing tool that you use for promoting?
Word of mouth. Yeah.
It's so funny.
It's the best form of marketing, but I do postcards, and during summer camp, I put up posters around town in coffee shops and nail salons and any place I think girls and or their moms might go. I've advertised in the newspaper a little bit, but with little to no success. Yeah. And I have a Facebook page and a website and a blog and all of that.
Okay. And what about email marketing? Is that like is that a big tool for you? Do you have a big email list? That's my biggest, besides word of mouth. That's my biggest.
Yeah, I try to send out 2 newsletters a month. Okay. More if I can, because I send out the blog posts as well. Yeah. And yes, I have about 700 people on my list.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
And you find that having the blog are they customers reading your blog, or they're just sort of?
So, well, I think the blog is kind of interesting and tricky in a way, because the followers that I have aren't necessarily people taking classes, but they may be. But it does help sort of validate the adult students.
Yeah.
So they could go to the website, they may see me blogging about all of the projects that I'm working on, and they're like, oh, okay, she's legit. She just doesn't teach kids, she teaches grown-ups, as if like it's a whole, if it's any different, but it's not. So, yes, that's one of the biggest questions I get is, do you teach adults too? And yeah, of course I teach adults. I love adults. Yeah.
It's so, oh my God, I just love doing these interviews, because it's like people just keep saying the things that I hear over and over and have nobody to really chat about it with, because I don't hang out with other sewing instructors. It's kind of a niche thing. But yeah, it's like you teach kids, you teach adults, and like you said, you teach them very similarly. It's not like you're going to do like this crazy different thing when you teach a 10-year-old how to sew that you're going to do when you teach a 40-year-old how to sew. It's very similar. But they tend to, because I do kids classes, they're just like, well, wait, but you also teach adults, and oh my gosh, wouldn't it be great if you taught adults? I'm like, of course I teach adults, exactly the same way. So funny. So that's really interesting that the blog would kind of show that you're the expert in this kind of thing. So that's a good plus side of having a blog. I struggle with it because it's like, how is it helping my actual local business in Hoboken, New Jersey? I don't know. But, whatever. And it's probably like a labor of love too for you. If you love sewing, it's kind of fun, probably.
It's really fun, and well, for me, I was always struggling. I've had a blog off and on for the last like 5 or 6 years, and up until last year, I really struggled with writing posts and taking pictures and all the things involved in having a blog. And so I have to say, it sort of up-leveled me, like being committed to doing it weekly or at least twice a month. Really made me learn a lot of new skills, and I feel made me ready to do different things and newer things and reach out to different communities. And yeah, I have to say it's been a really big growing process for me doing it.
Good.
Yeah.
Great. And you mentioned that you have a course. You said it's called Sewing Camp Power.
You got it. Yeah. And you can it's about how to run your own sewing camp. So it's pretty cool. So it's run on the Pixie Fair website. So I don't know if you know what Pixie Fair is.
No.
Pixie Fair, it's pixiefair.com, and it's an online marketplace for doll clothes patterns.
Okay.
So if you have any girls who want to sew American Girl doll clothes,
always the most packed summer camp every summer.
Yeah. So that one, and they have hundreds and hundreds of patterns for doll clothes and designers who just design for doll clothes.
Just doll clothes sewing patterns.
Yeah. So I am a designer there. My patterns that I sell are Bonjour Teaspoon is my brand. Okay. And I can tell you more about that later. But I make patterns for, it's I can't remember my tagline. Terrible. It's a classic style for the modern girl and her doll. So all of my patterns that I have for girls can be found in the doll size as well.
Okay.
So you can make a matching outfit.
So you do both.
Everything
you do, it's girl size, doll size.
Girl size, doll size, exactly. My background is in pattern making, so I did that at the Gap before, years ago, before I was teaching. So anyway, so I had a relationship with Pixie Fair because I've been selling with them for a while, and they noticed a video that I had on my website about the camps that I do, and they came to me and asked me if I would teach a class like that. And I had originally been thinking like, oh, how do I expand my business? How do I sort of grow my business so it's bigger? And I thought about doing camps in other towns, which I tried. I did a camp in San Francisco, but it was such a schlep to bring everything across the bay. You know, it was an hour commute each way. And so every day for a week, I only did a week of summer camp in San Francisco. And it was financially really great, but really hard. And then I thought to myself, well, I'd rather just teach other people how to have their own camps, because there's so many people out there who know how to sew, and so many people who want maybe a sewing business that isn't traditional, or maybe they really love teaching. So mine became pretty successful, and they started filling up, and we have a lot. It's really fashion based, so a lot of what I teach is about the curriculum that I use and how we do fashion shows and how to do mood boards and fashion illustration and things that I've sort of learned by working in the industry. And also all the businessy stuff behind it too.
Awesome. Okay. So it's a live class. It's not a video class.
It is a class that you take, and you get video modules, and then you have, you're connected to me for that month of October through the Facebook group. We have a private Facebook group, and you can go in and ask questions. And I'm always available anyway, so people can call me and ask me questions or email me. No problem.
Love it. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. And this is the perfect environment to advertise that, because that's kind of what I'm trying to do with the Hip Stitch Academy, is encourage people to, teach sewing. So it'll be people that are going to want to figure out, how do I have a summer camp for kids? So that's awesome. Good.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear more about your Hip Stitch Academy. It sounds amazing.
Aw, it's getting there. You know, it's like, I'm sure as you can relate, it's like when you've got the studio and that's sort of your bread and butter, and you know, it requires less of my time than it did obviously 5 years ago, but at the same time, it takes up a good chunk of my time. And so I'll get excited about the hip stitch and feel like I have some time to do it. And then it's also like finding the life, you know, the work-life balance. I just because I've got free time from the studio, it's like, oh, now I'm pouring it into this new business. It's like, now I need to just like do nothing. But I'm back from a vacation and I'm like, I'm all in. I literally like emailing a bunch of you from like the airplane home because I was like so excited about really giving it my all. And I mean, that's what vacations are for, right? You just get away for a little while, you get re-inspired. But you know, if anything, I love just chatting with all of you because like I said, it's finding the people that doing what you're, you know, that are doing what you're doing and hearing your stories and going, yep.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't get it. They don't really understand what we do and what it takes to be in front of people and teach them something.
Yeah.
And summer camp is a lot of energy. So like at the end of summer camp, I don't know about you, but I am done. I am done with everything for a while.
We went, yeah, I think to Labor Day this summer.
Wow.
And that's literally when everybody goes back to school. And so that was when I went on 2 weeks of vacation. And it was sort of weird because you're away for sort of everybody getting back from summer vacation and everyone's like getting gung-ho into their work. And I was like away and kind of shut off for a while. But I mean, that's the slowest time of the year for us because like, you know, we get done with summer camp and you've got to let school sort of happen, at least for us. And we're letting school get started and everybody getting into their schedule before they can even think about, you know, signing up for these enrichment classes. So anyway, that's where I'm kind of at and excited about all of this. So yes, hopefully we will, yeah, I just even to develop a community that comes together and just shares information with each other. You know, I think that's such an important part of this. So yeah. I don't know, did you see that we have the monthly video chats? We actually had one this morning that was really good. And you were talking about posters and about, you know, all the marketing that you do. And that's kind of what we talked about this morning. So it's
yeah, I really wanted to actually jump in there, but I had
early for you probably.
It was early. It would have been fine, but I had a student call me, an adult student who's a regular with me, asked me to come in and help her with something. So I couldn't turn her down.
Well, next time you'll have to.
Next time.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. All right. What's your favorite part of being an entrepreneur?
Making my own schedule and being the man, I guess. Well, not that I'm the man, but I'm the woman. I'm like, you know, I don't have to answer to anybody else really, other than my students. I'm there for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And shoot, I had something in the back of my head. It'll come back to me. Do you feel like you've had to make sacrifices to become, to work for yourself? Or I guess like, what are some of the things that you found harder about working for yourself that maybe you didn't expect?
Well, when I stopped working at Gap, it took me 3 times longer to do every single thing because there wasn't a photocopier around the corner. There wasn't like a fast computer. I had a laptop and it was really slow. And so everything took a lot more time. Yeah. And then, you know, having, both my husband and I are self-employed. So when I worked in the corporate world, I had insurance. I had health insurance and it was really cheap. And now it's not really cheap. It's our biggest expense. It costs more than our mortgage for 3 people. So it's my husband, myself, and my daughter. And she's 14. So, yeah, so that the financial not instability, but unknown a
Right.
little bit. Like you're not really sure. It's not as consistent as it is when you're in a job that gives you a paycheck every couple weeks, you know?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
that's really impressive that both of you. I think that takes a lot of courage, like way more courage than just becoming an entrepreneur, is to have your entire income in your family, your household income is entrepreneurial. So kudos to you. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. It started with my husband, really. I mean, he
Yeah.
was always like that. And I just got really overwhelmed in the corporate world and was able to leave. And I started by making wedding gowns. So I made my wedding gown and I made friends' wedding gowns. And then I realized, oh, I really want to do this. I don't want to tell factories how to fix their clothing anymore. I just want to be one-on-one. So I did that for like 5 years. And then I realized, yeah, I have to work for myself. I can't work for other people. It just doesn't really work for me.
Did you find that moving from custom sewing for other people to moving into teaching, why did you end up doing that? Because I did the same thing, and I'm curious if it's.
Oh, yeah. Well, first of all, while I was doing custom clothing, I had to earn other money because that didn't pay the bills. It really didn't. You know, I mean, I went from having a corporate job that was great to like having a part-time like startup business. So I taught in the fashion department at California College of the Arts. So I had a friend who had worked at Gap, and then she went over and taught at CCA and asked me if I would come teach. And so I taught their beginning pattern making class, and that was like 2 days a week. So it was great. It was just, you know, a part-time job that allowed me the flexibility. And you know, I'd never taught kids. I did a little bit of training in my job at Gap, but I'd never really taught a full classroom of students over the course of 15 weeks with 8 different projects that they had to get done. And then she would remind me, like, you just know more than they do. Just remember that. You know more than they do. You can't really be intimidated by that. And I found that I loved being with them. I loved showing what I learned and what I love about what I do.
Sure.
And so that's how the teaching part came along. And then I tried to, after I had Emma, my daughter, I really tried to put some small workshops together for adults here in town. And I struggled to fill classes. I really didn't know how to do any marketing. I didn't know anything really, you know, I was just trying. And in the end, I mean, it was great because I did get some experience. And I had a friend come up to me and ask me, oh, I have a friend whose daughter is turning 8, and she wants sewing lessons for her birthday. Do you have any interest in teaching her? And so I was like, oh, I don't know, 8 years old, but one kid, I could do it, especially if she's into fashion. So she was into fashion, and she'd come to my house every week. And then all of a sudden she had a couple friends who wanted to come. So suddenly my house was like filled with kids. And that's just how it started.
It was pretty organic then.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
it was. What about you?
Well, yeah, it's the same. I guess it's the same type of thing. Yeah, I had just had a bag business, and it was like before Etsy. And so I had some online marketing experience. So I'd gotten, you know, a pretty decent following, was making bags, but then it was just, I was constantly sewing and not making any money. You're just constantly churning out product, sending them exactly what they need. They get it. And, you know, maybe they decide it's not what they thought they wanted. And anyway, it's a lot of work for not a ton of pay, you know, to make a living basically. And I had other part-time jobs to supplement that as well. So then it turned into, all right, instead of making these custom bags and shipping them out, what if I had a handbag workshop? You come in and we have 3 simple styles. You pick your fabric, you pick your straps, just like my business was, but then you drink a little wine and we'll teach you how to make it. And then it's done, you know? And that was the whole thing for me. It was like, it was a 2-hour thing that had a start and had an end, and that was it. Whereas when you're making custom things for people, it could go on forever, you know.
Right.
Done other custom clothing where you're like, you quote them way low and you're just like, holy cow, I'm literally losing money on this order because I wasn't great at business at the time. So to be able to do these classes where, and people were so excited because nobody knew how to sew at that time, you know, it sort of skipped a generation from like our grandmother, you know, and people hadn't learned how to sew. So it's, so yeah, then from the bag workshops, it turned into, yeah, can you teach my kid how to sew? Or what about teaching a hemming class? And what about this class? And then it kind of grew from there. So same type of thing. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Let me see. Oh, I always just like to ask people at the end, what, you know, you're an entrepreneur, you work for yourself. What are the things what do you do to inspire new ideas in your business, to inspire yourself to kind of keep going and be excited about what you do, whether it's books, is it podcasts, what is it?
So I listen to a couple of different podcasts, and I have a regular sewing practice for myself.
Yeah.
So those are the things that I really do. So I listen to their business, and so one is Rachel Cook. She teaches sort of business classes, and she's got some free. She's got a free class. What was it called? I'll think of it later. But so Rachel Cook is one. And I listen to the Miss Fisher Files because I'm obsessed with Miss Fisher's murder mysteries.
Okay.
Yeah. So I kind of have this eclectic stuff that I do to stay inspired. I love making costumes and dressing up, like wearing vintage clothing and making vintage inspired clothing and things like that.
So you go a lot from vintage patterns. You're a vintage pattern collector.
Well, yes, in a way. I usually use the ones you can buy a lot of reproduction vintage patterns, and those are often more stable and sturdy than the true vintage patterns. But yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And then what was the other thing you said? Oh, your regular sewing practice. Talk to me about that. I love it.
Yeah. So I sew for myself, and that's what I blog about, is my own practice. So I've become really aware that sewing is like it's like a spiritual practice in many ways. It can be meditative. It can be hard sometimes. It can be, and it's a commitment that you're making to yourself when you do it.
Yeah.
So I've made a commitment to myself to sew for myself and blog about it.
Yeah.
I'm working on a Chanel jacket right now, and I've been working on that jacket for 5 years. So
So you take it out, you do a little, something else. And then
so now I'm going to finish that jacket. I'm making a public commitment right now to finishing that jacket before the end of the year.
Yay. Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
I've never really heard sewing compared to like a spiritual practice. I really like that because in my head, I'm always like, I need to find time to sew for myself. I need to find time to sew for myself. And I'm not doing that enough. But yeah, and then having that commitment to your blog readers, it keeps you kind of accountable, I guess.
Yeah, it totally keeps me accountable. Definitely.
All right.
I talk about that when I'm teaching kids how to sew, because, what's the thing that they struggle with the most? Being patient.
Right. And
so patience, I talked to them about, a friend of mine who was a Buddhist said to me while we were sewing together, she said, sewing is like, it's just a meditation and patience. Like, you just have to be patient, and that's the practice. And so the more you do it, the better you get. And the more in tune with it you become. And so it is very much like a spiritual practice. And for me, it always has been. I just never really saw it that way until someone else opened my eyes to it.
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely gonna make me think about it a little bit differently. Thank you for that. Okay, so where can someone get your course that you made? It's Pixie Fair. Give all the details.
Okay, so it's www.pixiefair.com in their online courses section.
Spell Pixie Fair. Is it just
It's PIXIEFAIRE.
Ah, there is an E. I wondered if it was sort of Renaissance.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a little bit Renaissance-y, but also not at the same time. It's a pretty modern looking website. And so they have lots of online courses. They have online courses. Well, they have My Sewing Camp Power, but then they also have the Design Academy that teaches you how to design your own doll clothes, which I took ages ago when I was thinking about doing doll patterns, because it's fashion design, but it's meant on a different scale. So they have lots of great classes in there, so it's a great resource. And their patterns are cheap. It's like $3.99 for a pattern. So, you know, you can go in there and blow a bunch of money easily. Yeah.
On that same note, what are some of your other pattern resources that you love? Where do you go when you need a new pattern?
When I need a new pattern, well, I love the Tilly and the Buttons patterns. She's a designer in England. She has full color booklets. So for my students, those are really fantastic because everything that the instruction booklets are just so clear and concise, and people can really get what she's doing. And it's all bright colors and really darling to look at.
That's adorable. I mean, her videos are just so cute.
Oh yeah, she's really cute. Yeah. So I love Tilly. I don't do a lot of like research online. I have an Etsy seller, Vintage Pattern Girl, and that's where I buy most of my vintage patterns. So I love those. And you have to, you know, they're all like one size. They're all like meant for a 34-inch bust. So you have to change them to make them fit you. But I find that's really great. Those are probably, that's probably it. Yeah. Yeah.
Good. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me. It was so much fun, and love just hearing all the things that go on in my life going on in other people's lives. So it's so much fun to just hear about it, and great to meet you.
Great to meet you too.
I will post this probably in the next couple days. I'll send you a little link when it's up. And keep in touch. Join us on a little chat, or just keep in touch in general.
When is the next chat?
I believe it's October 20th. I believe. I don't have it up in front of me right now, but I believe it's October 20th. But if you just go to the Hip Stitch Academy, it's hipstitch.co is actually the shortest URL that I have. Stitch.co. It's also hipstitchacademy.com. Either of those will work.
Okay.
Go to whatever it is, virtual coffee date. The dates are up there. I think until June.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I was just had all these topics that I was like, we need to talk about this and we can talk about this. So they're all up there. You can sign up for them up until June. So yeah.
Awesome.
Again soon. All right.
Okay. Take care. Bye.
Bye.